In 1993, a film called The Exorcist opened in theaters. Audiences fainted in the aisles. Ambulances were called to screenings. The Catholic Church denounced it. The British Board of Film Censors banned it for 25 years. It became the first horror film ever nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and it made almost $500 million at the box office. Most people assumed the story was pure fiction, a novelist's twisted imagination. But the truth is far more disturbing. The girl in the film was based on a real 13-year-old boy. His name was Ronald Hunkeler. And in 1980, the Catholic Church authorized one of the most harrowing exorcisms ever recorded in American history to save him. What happened to that boy and to the people who made the film is the story no one told you. January 1949, Cottage City, Maryland, a quiet suburb just outside Washington, D.C. Ronald Hunkeler was 13 years old, German-American family, middle class, ordinary in every way, except for one thing. He was obsessed with his Aunt Harriet. Harriet was a spiritualist. She taught the boy many things, most notably how to use a Ouija board. When she died in January 1949, Ronald was devastated. Shortly after her death, strange things began happening in the Hunkeler household. First, the scratching sounds, coming from the floors, from the walls, from places where no pipes or animals could possibly be. Then, water began dripping inexplicably from the ceilings and walls. And most disturbing of all, Ronald's mattress would suddenly move, sliding across the room with no explanation. The family consulted doctors, psychiatrists, their local Lutheran minister. No one could explain what was happening. The Lutheran minister, out of options, suggested something that was almost unheard of in 1940s America. Call the Jesuits. Father E. Albert Hughes, a local Catholic priest, requested permission from his superiors to perform an exorcism. The church approved it. In late February 1949, Hughes strapped Ronald to a mattress and began the ancient rites of exorcism. But he never finished. The boy broke off a piece of the mattress spring, slashed the priest across his shoulders, and the rite was abandoned. A few days later, red scratches appeared across Ronald's body. One of them formed a word, 4 letters carved into his skin, Louis. Ronald's mother interpreted it as a sign. The family needed to go to St. Louis. In St. Louis, a cousin attending St. Louis University put the Hunkelers in touch with Father Walter Halloran and Reverend William Boder. After consulting with the university president, the 2 Jesuits agreed to perform an exorcism. They gathered at the family's relative's home on Roanoke Drive in early March 1949, and what they witnessed defied everything they believed possible. At night, Ronald would enter a trance-like state. He spoke in a guttural voice that did not sound human. He reacted violently to any sacred object the priest presented: crucifixes, holy water, rosaries. Objects in the room reportedly flew through the air, and the mattress, the same mattress that had moved in Maryland, now slid violently across the floor, knocking grown men to the ground. The priests also noticed a pattern. By day, Ronald was calm, normal, a regular 13-year-old. But the moment he went to bed, the terror began. Every night, for over a month. Bowdern later reported seeing scratches form on the boy's body in real time. Once, a pitchfork-shaped pattern of red lines moved from Ronald's thigh down toward his ankle. Another time, scratches formed an X on his chest, which the priest believed signified the number 10, suggesting 10 separate demons were inside him. By March 20th, the ordeal had reached a breaking point. Ronald urinated on his bed and began screaming curses at the priests. His parents, terrified and exhausted, took him to the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis. There in a hospital room, the final confrontation took place. April 18th, 1949, the Monday after Easter. Ronald awoke with violent seizures. He screamed that Satan would never leave. The priests laid holy relics, crucifixes, medals, and rosaries across his body. They shouted at the demon, calling on St. Michael the Archangel to battle for the boy's soul. At 10:45 p.m., they commanded Satan to leave. 7 minutes later, Ronald came out of his trance. He looked at the priests and said 4 words, "He's gone." Ronald later described a vision: St. Michael vanquishing Satan on a great battlefield of fire. The strange occurrences stopped. The scratches never returned. Ronald Hunkeler went on to live a completely normal life. He became a NASA engineer. His work contributed to the Apollo space program. The boy who was allegedly possessed by the devil helped put men on the moon. No one would have ever known about the exorcism of Ronald Hunkeler if not for a brief article in the Washington Post in August 1949. It confirmed that priests had performed an exorcism, but revealed almost no details, not even the boy's name. The case sat dormant for over 2 decades. Until 1971, a struggling author named William Peter Blatty was searching for his next story. He came across the Washington Post article. He dug deeper. He found the diaries of Father Bodern, detailed day-by-day accounts of everything that happened in that house on Roanoke Drive. Blatty wrote a novel. He called it The Exorcist. The book spent 54 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It sold over 13 million copies. Warner Bros. Bought the film rights. They hired William Friedkin, a young, aggressive director fresh off winning an Oscar for The French Connection, to bring it to the screen. That's when things got dark again. Even before shooting began, something felt wrong. A bird flew into a circuit box on the McNeil house set. The entire structure caught fire and burned to the ground, except for one room. Reagan's bedroom, where the exorcism scene takes place in the film, was completely untouched. It took 6 weeks to rebuild. In his first week of filming, Max von Sydow, who played Father Marin, learned that his brother had died in Sweden. He flew home for the funeral. Linda Blair, the 13-year-old girl playing Reagan, lost her grandfather shortly after. Then, a 10-foot demon statue being shipped to a filming location in Iraq vanished in transit in Hong Kong. It was never recovered. Then came the injuries. Linda Blair was placed in a harness rigged to violently shake her, simulating demonic convulsions. During one take, the mechanism malfunctioned and fractured her lower spine. She screamed, "Please make it stop. It hurts. It burns." But her pleas matched the script exactly, so no one realized she was genuinely injured. That footage is in the final film. Blair lived with scoliosis and chronic pain for the rest of her life. Ellen Burstyn, playing Reagan's mother, was told to be thrown backward by a wire harness. She told Friedkin the crewman was pulling too hard. She warned him she could get hurt. The director told them to make it look real. On the next take, she was slammed into the floor so hard she suffered a permanent spinal injury. A crew member lost his toe. A carpenter severed his thumb. The set's refrigeration technician died. The night watchman was shot and killed. The assistant cameraman's newborn baby died. Actor Jack McGoran, who played Burke Dennings, the film director killed by the possessed Regan, died from the flu just 1 week after filming his final scene. In total, 9 people connected to the production died. Director William Friedkin, a man who had never believed in anything supernatural, approached Father Thomas Birmingham, the technical advisor on the film, and asked him to perform an exorcism on the set. Birmingham refused. He didn't want to increase the crew's anxiety, but he agreed to bless everyone on set. The entire cast and crew gathered for the ceremony. Friedkin later told a horror magazine in 1974, "I'm not a convert to the occult, but after all I've seen on this film, I definitely believe in demonic possession. There are things that cannot be treated by medical or psychiatric means. We were plagued by strange and sinister things from the beginning." The Exorcist ends with Father Karras throwing himself out the window, sacrificing his life to save Regan. The demon is expelled. The girl is free. The credits roll. But the real story ends differently. Ronald Hunkeler, the boy whose suffering inspired it all, never watched the film. He never wanted to. He graduated college, became an engineer, got married, had children. His colleagues at NASA had no idea about his past. He died in 2012 at the age of 77. His obituary didn't mention the exorcism. William Peter Blatty died in 2017. William Friedkin died in 2023. Max von Sydow died in 2020. Jason Miller, who played Father Karras, died in 2001. Jack McGoran died before the film was even released. Of the principal cast, few remain. Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn still carry the physical scars of the film. A 13-year-old boy, a Ouija board, a dead aunt, and a diary kept by a priest who saw things he could never explain. The Exorcist is not just a horror film, it is a document of something that, if you believe the men who were in that room, really happened.